All right, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another Q&A session with Delia. We're going to start doing these on a monthly basis. We got a lot of good responses and feedback from the last one we did. So going forward into the new year, we're going to be doing this every month. We're going to try to do it on, I believe, the second Thursday of every month at around the same time, 11 a.m. And we will be scheduling that out and sending you that schedule in advance so that you can kind of block off time if you need to. So today we actually have another guest with us. We have Kristin Hayghe from Heritage Title. She's actually in the same building as us. We see her every day. She's great. So if you guys have any title questions or needs, feel free to give her a shout. I'll put her information in the chat as well. But with all that said, let's pass it over to Delia, and we can get started with any questions that you guys have.
Good morning. How are you? So I guess I'm going to start to see if you guys have any questions for myself about the industry, contracts, problems, scenarios, challenging, problems that you guys might have come up with, maybe you don't know the answer, or just something that you want to just bring to the table to make us all aware of. We'll start off there. So in other words, it's a really easy market to work in, right? Is that what you're telling me? It's a simple market. No bidding wars, no nothing, right? No challenges.
Well, this is Brenda. I'd like to know about the bidding wars. What is, a good thing to do to help get there, to get my buyer to get it without being ridiculous, pricing it well over what it will appraise for if they don't have the money to come up with extra. What do you suggest? What's working?
Does anybody have any thoughts before I give you my thought? Anybody experience that? No? Okay. Brenda, it's challenging, okay? The appraisers are still trying to keep the market stable and not have what we did back in 2007. A lot of appraisers aren't coming in. So what we're seeing now is people are going in very aggressive, even though it probably won't appraise, just to get into the door, just to get their contract accepted. And then they're going in with no home inspections. I'd never advise that. I never advise going in with not a contingency on financing as well. We can advise and educate our buyers, but bottom line, it's their decision. Okay. We're in the market now that, it's still a seller's market, and it's going to be that way. I'm thinking until probably second quarter for what I'm seeing now. Inventory is coming back a little bit. More things are coming on the market, which is a good thing. I'm in a position myself that I'm trying to buy, but it's just not a buyer's market. So, I would not. You're asking what you can do. Well, you can do a lot, but your client has to feel comfortable, and you have to be protected. Okay. Going in without a home inspection, I don't like it. Going in for information purposes only is better. If you go in as a cash, you still want to go in as making sure it appraises, so there's an out there. You can go up to a certain escalation on your sales price, but cap it, with increments. There's things that you can protect it to make the contract look better, but really it's the buyer, how flexible is the buyer, and how bad does the buyer want it, But, I always advise my client or my agents that, I have one going right now. It's an as is. We found out there was huge structural problems. He still wanted it. We had an out because it wasn't disclosed, and it was a material fact. It was hidden. We told him what could happen. The buyer still wants it. I told my agent that's fine, but make sure you get an addendum between you and your client, the buyer, that you advised him to get a structural engineer's opinion and that he chose to still move forward. Because
Okay.
bottom line, at the end, people start forgetting what happened. And the first people they're going to blame is the agents. So, you know, if your people want you to go in contingent on not financing, I don't suggest it. People want to do it. You just cover yourself saying this is not what you suggest, or this is not in your best, you know, as an agent, I'm here to advise you. I don't suggest it, but you know what you're getting into. And there's wording about, you know, with that I can advise. So as long as you're protecting your buyer and yourself.
I thought that was unmuting me.
You have been bidding. You have been in a bidding war this year. I have a question here. Oh, have you been in a bidding war this year? Yes.
Yes.
And
I clicked on it and it's unmuted, but they can hear me now, but I'm sure I can't hear them.
okay. So, you know, as long as you're going into where the buyers as protected as they want to be, and if you find that they're might not be doing things that you would advise, just make sure it's disclosed to them in writing between you and them, not the seller.
Okay.
So
Yes.
Would an email suffice the disclosure, or does it have to be some type of addendum?
I would want an addendum between both parties, just between the broker, the agent, you know, Taylor Properties, the agent, and the client. So, you know, letting them know that this is not in their best interest, but they know what they're getting into, in other words. Yeah, just to protect yourself.
I did the seller, buyer hold harmless. That's, you know, and they did do it without a warranty, and they haven't even seen the place because they were moving from Florida to here. Thank God everything worked out, but that was, I was so wrecked. It is. Yeah. What about a renter? I got a renter in California who wants to come. All right. What if we don't have anything to hold renters, but renters will hold agents harmless.
There's not anything in writing, but we can work on an addendum together.
An addendum,
I
okay.
agree. You need that. Yes. Anything to protect you as an agent in the brokerage is what we're about. You know,
Okay.
the littlest things you just don't realize. And we had a story the other day that they bought a house in Piney Orchard, which is an area around in Anne Arundel County. And they were coming out of the state, and they bought it sight unseen. They asked my agent about the area. You really can't say much. You kind of direct them to the police department, the fire station, and, you know, websites and stuff. And it was an area which it is a decent area, right? And there's something happened over the weekend, and now they said, why didn't you tell me? Well, my agent couldn't tell you, you know what I'm saying? So it's very difficult, you know, but the biggest goal is to protect you, your license, and in turn, you know, the broker.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. Yep.
Yes.
Hi, Delia. Can you hear me okay?
I can. How are you?
It's Terry.
Yes.
Thank you for helping me last week. But I got another question. I don't know if this is the appropriate forum. My buyer is now asking for closing help. We've got the contract. We're in ratification. They've agreed to fix some of the inspection issues. But at which point do I say to the seller, now we're looking for closing help?
At any point.
Okay.
Can. Agent's job is that you might, in the back of your mind, well, we're like beyond that. We should have asked for it up front. It doesn't matter. Whatever your buyer wants you to ask, as agents, you ask on the behalf of your buyer, or vice versa as a seller. We're here to represent the buyer. And even though, like, for instance, you went in with doing a home inspection with just for informational purposes only. And I'm seeing that a lot. People go in with that. The sellers are like, great, they're going to do a home inspection, but I don't have to fix anything. No. They get in the door, Brenda, like we were telling you, they get in the door. But then the seller said, well, I want this done. And you're thinking, well, you can't. Well, yeah, you can. You can ask. You can ask anything. And I've seen people do the repairs on them. So people are getting in there. Okay, I'm going to do a home inspection, or, you know, but I'm not going to ask for any repairs because they have the form and all that. Well, they still want repairs done. You still have to ask. And typically they'll get done by the seller.
The worst thing they can say is no.
Yep.
So I can just do an addendum
Yeah.
request the closing costs. Okay.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Now, is there a certain percentage that's usually expected when you're asking for
Well,
closing
like on
help,
a-
or you just
Like on an FHA, it's you total, Kristin, well, you wouldn't know, but it's more financial. Typical closing cost for a buyer is anywhere between 7 and 9%. FHA, they have to contribute, I think, 3.5. So the rest of it can come from the seller or the agent or a gift or whatever. That's the rule of thumb. But I definitely would reach out to the lender to see what they can ask for, because they have to have certain funds or depending on what program they're on. And, it's okay to ask for too much money, because what I always say to the agents, you ask for the money, the sellers agree to it. We can't use it all, right? Because the lender won't allow it. Well, we can use it somewhere. We can lower the price of the house. We can have them pay some title costs that the buyer typically pays.
Home warranties.
We can get a home warranty. When a seller says yes, I'll give the closing cost. We can use it somewhere. Okay. They can pay for the admin fee. The title company, Kristin, will find ways to use it on the CD. Don't give it back to the buyer or the seller just because it can't be used.
Hi, Delia. This is Wilmer.
Hey, Wilmer.
Can I add a little bit? Us as an agent, we shouldn't be afraid of ask always. Like someone say, the worst they can say is no. I had a few cases that we've said we present the contract. We get the contract as is. Like my last case in Arlington, Maryland, it was as is. We did a home inspection for information purposes, and we found a few things. My client, they wanted the house no matter what, but I said, let's ask for $10,000. I said, let's ask for $10,000 so we can get 5. So we asked for $10,000 and I got the $10,000. I was very surprised, as is. So, and like you said, if the lender cannot use it all, we can always find, ways, home warranty, the hazard insurance can be, we can add extra to it, so, but that's the case on my side.
With like new constructions and new builds, typically I feel like they're a little bit more willing to be flexible with closing help, depending on their situation and what type of inventory they have left. So if anyone has any experience with that and can talk about that, that'd be great too.
Well, I have a new build contract going on right now, and typically they have incentives to use their own like in-house title company and lender. So they'll get a little bit extra seller's contribution. Maybe they'll lower the sales price a little bit just to use their in-house company. However, I don't know if it really depends on the builder on whether or not they're willing to give the extras. The one that I'm doing right now, they didn't get any additional seller contribution, but they did get like a 3-year home warranty, builder's home warranty with the house. And it was probably about $1,500 that was just thrown in just because it's a new build. But I haven't done a new build in a couple of months. This has been my first one dealing with this builder. So like I said, it's different for each builder. So I would ask, upfront of, who's paying transfer and recordation, is there a home warranty offered? What other type of incentives are good for my clients if I use this title company, and then let them choose the lender, and then vice versa.
Yeah, I feel like new constructions can be a little bit tricky in that way, and that you can kind of negotiate here and there for certain things. But in terms of financing, like you said, like if you use their in-house services, particularly financial, you may not get the best rate in comparison if you're shopping around with other brokers. However, and this is my experience, you can still ask for that closing costs help. They'll probably give it to you with at a little bit higher rate. You can kind of convince your clients to say, you know what, see where the rates are in the next 6 to 12 months. Maybe you can refinance and get out of that rate and you even get lower. That way you can still get your closing costs if you really hung up on that, and then just keep moving forward with the transaction.
One thing I will say about builders, and I don't know if you guys know this, whether it be builders or sellers asking this, that if they ask you to use their preferred title company, okay, you see that a lot, like Kristin said, with builders, they do. What are the buyers entitled to? Does anybody know the answer to that?
Lower title insurance, probably premiums.
They are required, if a builder, especially builders will ask for it and kind of push for it. And even sellers, as we know, it's buyer's choice, but sellers can ask for it, right? If the buyer chooses to go ahead and use the seller's title company, of choice, then they're also need to be known that they are going to have to pay for the owner's title policy on the buyer's behalf. If you guys didn't know that. So if a builder is going to say, well, I want you to do my title company, say, okay, you're going to buy, you're going to pay my buyer's owner's policy, title owner's policy. And it's by law, they have to, if they're going to require you or ask of you to do it. So that saves your buyer money. Okay. I don't suggest it only because they don't work for you when you're using, a builder's title company. I mean, I don't suggest it. I didn't do it when I bought my first build, my home, new home 20 years ago, because title companies are supposed to, work the house, they work for the buyer in the house, right, Kristin?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you want somebody that is going to look after you.
Advocate.
Yeah. So that's my suggestion.
We have to be careful sometimes with new construction. So I lost a client that they were looking for regular properties. Then they went into one of those new developments, and the developer, even though they told them that they're working with a realtor, the developer, they say, we can give you this, and that if you don't work with a realtor, if you work directly with me. So I lost them because of that. So in the end, they didn't give them that much. They just used them. So
Okay. Okay, so I have a question. So of course, your buyer, wants the incentives, and your buyer doesn't, hopefully he signed a buyer agency agreement with you, right? I'm hoping.
yes.
If he did, and we filled out the buyer agency agreement correctly, which would have said that as part of your commission, that they're responsible for the 3%, the 2.5%, or the 2%, whatever you're charging them. So, and I've seen it happen. So if they go out and buy a new construction, they need to be told, well, I'm still earning my commission because of my buyer agency agreement I have with you. So really, I'm not trying to, but I'm just, we have a contract together, and I want to represent you. So either you're going to pay the builder with discount, that maybe they'll lower their price on some things, but you still owe me the money, and you will get paid, Wilmer.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I just,
there's buyer agency agreements, and I've seen a lot that are not filled out correctly, and that my agents aren't protected, which I don't know if they choose to do it that way, but the buyers owe that commission, and that really, I pull that out all the time, that card out, that listen, they're going to pay somebody either, so whether they use you or not, we're entitled to the money, and we'll go after it. And we do, and you usually won't have to get that far. They usually understand that, they need representation. So, which brings me to some questions I have, just a few questions.
We have actually one question from Lena Fallon
okay.
in the chat. Kind of switching gears about admin though. Will we ever go to direct deposit commission checks?
I'm looking into that. It's not going to be anytime in the future. We're looking into it. We have the new software back at you that we're taking baby steps with that, but I know that is part of that software, correct, Gary?
Yes, it is.
I'm just not there yet, but we do have a way that may be easier for me to do it through this new software that we got. Okay. So I'm not gonna say no, but I'm not gonna say it's gonna be tomorrow either. Okay. I have a question. Where's my questions? Oh, okay. Does anybody know what is the escrow agreement and why is it required? Has anybody heard of the escrow agreement form? I know people know this form. It's a required form.
Yes, I've seen it. For me, I mean, it kind of make or doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense when the escrow is going to a title company, but it doesn't, for me, make sense when it's going to our broker. And I actually had one filled out going to our broker, and I put in Sky Slope, and someone in the office said, "What is this?" I guess because the escrow is going to Taylor property.
Yeah, okay. We require it, okay, and I would agree, Wilmer, with you, is that we definitely need it, and it's a requirement if a title company is holding escrow. Because the law is different on how an escrow is released if a title company is holding it versus a broker, okay? Completely different law. If a broker is holding the EMD, I'm not really going to fight for the form because the contract covers that. Okay, but we definitely need it if a title company is or another person is, because what is in the contract and what's up in the contract about the deposit and how it's to be returned is not the same if we're not holding it. That's why it's a required form. Okay, it's very, very important that we get that form, and a lot of people don't get it, and we need it. Okay. The other thing is.
Sorry, Delia, can I
Yes.
clarify? You said if someone else is holding it or the title company, it is required. But if we're holding it, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
And
you.
the reason, I mean, my contract compliance department, which is the two girls that we have, Catherine and Lynn, they're good and they go by the book. Okay. But as you know, in real estate, there's always give and take. So that form was drawn up by the Maryland Association of Realtors, MAR. And it says in there, if the broker is using it, just to reference back to the contract, in other words. So I'm thinking, why do we need it if we're holding it, right, Wilmer? Like you said. So I'm thinking I'm not going to fight for it. But if we're not, is when I definitely need it. Okay. One other thing about what's required if you do business in Montgomery County? What kind of test is required? Does anybody know?
The radon test.
Radon test. Is it required? Is it required?
Yes, in Montgomery County, yeah.
Okay. What if the buyer doesn't want to do it?
The buyer or the seller, because the seller is the one is required to get it done.
Very good.
No matter if it's as is. And I have some issues with the as is situation. One of them.
That doesn't, you still need the radon on that.
Exactly.
Yeah, doesn't matter. And it's kind of very vague in it kind of leaves it in the contract that it has to be done. And it doesn't say, well, no one wants to do it. So if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. We're just going to go to settlement. Doesn't work that way. And you might be thinking, well, everybody agrees. It doesn't have to be done. Well, it has to because it's the law. So I think you have, Wilmer, correct me if I'm right or wrong. I think it's within 1 year, you have to have a radon test that's good within the 1 year, or you have another 6 months to get it afterwards, the seller. If not, there's penalties. So bottom line, you're gonna get penalties if you don't get it done.
Yes, I think it's within 1 year, Montgomery County.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a buyer and seller can't agree that they're not doing it. It doesn't work that way. It has to be done. And I have a lot of people that say, well, no one wants to do it. They don't care. Well, it doesn't matter. They have to do it. Okay. I don't know if anybody knew that. And then there's only one other thing that I wanted to What was the other thing I wanted to talk about? I just lost the train of thought. It was over here. Okay, once the seller or leaser signs a listing agreement, must I give them the understanding whom the real estate agent represents form so that the seller or leaser can acknowledge that I represent them? So when you have a listing agreement, what the question is do you have to therefore provide the understanding whom real estate represents?
I think you should.
Anybody else? Who thinks they should? Raise your hand. I can't see anything but just names. Where are all those nice looking faces I have out there?
The question was, does the seller have to be notified of who understands?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So here's and this has been out there, the law changed a long time ago, or maybe not long, maybe a couple good years ago. The only time that you need an understanding whom real estate represents is the unrepresented person. Okay. So you represent the buyer, you have a buyer agency agreement. They know who you represent. You represent the seller, you have a listing agreement. They know who you represent. Okay. The only time you present the understanding who real estate represents is when the unrepresented buyer or seller is the only time. I don't need it unless it's unrepresented. Okay. There's a lot of paperwork out there. We don't need that 2-page form if we don't have to. Okay. Let me see. Does anybody know exactly dual agency and what that form is intended to be used for? All right, Gary, I think you're right. Maybe we should move these meetings back till 1 o'clock. People aren't awake.
Having a coffee.
So you guys all know, understand how the dual agency form works, right?
Yes.
Everybody got, you want to explain to us how it works?
Who you're talking to?
You.
Oh, I should have never spoke up.
Tag, you're it.
Basically, it just allows agents at Taylor property to represent, one agent represents the seller, one represents the buyer. Even though, you know, that's the main thing. It's that, and it actually allows you to show it. So if I have
Yes.
a listing as a Taylor property agent,
Yep.
and you're a Taylor property agent, you can't even show the property without that form being signed.
Exactly. So you get it when you get the listing, and on the second page, you sign the top, the seller does. And the affirmation of it is when before you go to show it, that the seller has to say, okay, now I accept it. You can go ahead and show, and I accept this. So we get a lot of it that's signed by, both places at the same time. It's one signature first, and then when it becomes necessary is when you get the bottom portion signed. Okay.
And my understanding is it doesn't work retrospectively. So you can't have failed to have it signed. They showed the property. Oh, and now we're going to sign it all up.
No, you're absolutely right. That's why you get it at the listing, and you can even have it uploaded in a disclosure on Bright is the best thing. So let me see.
I have a question about the dual agency, but within a team. So like I have a team, we're 3 of us, and one of my team person wants to put an offer on one of my listing. Can we do that? And then, or we have to add it within a team, the dual agency within a team?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
You do. Mhm. Absolutely. It's very important in that case too. I mean, it's always important, but that's,
Yeah.
just because you're defined as a team doesn't mean that you can't follow the same rules that's a law, so that's still required.
Right.
No, I thought my point, I'm sorry, Gary. My point was I thought it was more an interest of conflict because it's a team, and we are a team. And but I guess, yes, we can do it as long as this and we have the right.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I think the dual agency is it's at the broker level, because technically the broker's the one representing the client. So that's why they have it and they apply it to individuals and teams, because they're under the same broker.
That's correct.
So just to loop back, Elaine Hunnelt had a comment and a question. Her comments on radon. She says, people are dying of lung cancer every day who are non-smokers because of the radon exposure. People just need to be encouraged to educate themselves in this high radon area of the country. All of my buyers do the radon test. I often pay for it for them as a gift. If there are findings, we always get the seller to pay for the passive remediation. Just a thought. So
Yeah.
very good input
Excellent. Yeah, it is. I mean, why wouldn't you want to do it, right? I agree. You
Yeah.
know, exactly. And it's a good idea to maybe do as a gift. You know, you're always looking for referrals, right? Family and friends. It's a very good gesture. Yeah.
It also shows goodwill. You know,
Mhm.
you're kind of looking out for the health of your clients, and they obviously would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Kind of looking out for your own sort of thing.
Mhm.
And then her question is anyone submitting letters of intent instead of contracts in this market? So much work to prepare for a full offer when you're one of 15 offers. So letters of intent instead of a contract. Has anyone been doing that?
I remember a couple good years ago, I would see it like maybe 10 years ago, I would see it, not so much now. You do have agents, and for the lack of better words, the people that's been in the industry about 40 years that, you know, yeah, just send it to me, I'll present it. And then you have the other ones that say, no, if your people are interested and they really want it, give me an offer. I want it on a legal document, which I'm not seeing it so much anymore like I did in the past. I haven't seen one in quite a long time.
The thing is, the listing agent, because they're listing agent, they don't agree. They say, no, I don't want a letter, they just want an offer. I think it's a question that for every deal, we should ask an agent if they will accept that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're asked to do it on the buyer's behalf, then you need to ask the other agent. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So this brings up the verbal communication about properties that are for sale. Hey, my buyer wants to offer around $400,000 for your house. Should we bother to submit it? You see, and I've had many of these kind of conversations. It's like, you know, we're asking 400, and they want to submit a $400,000 offer. You know, is it worth doing? And you know, it's a little bit of a dilemma, because you might have one on the table right now, 425. The more's coming in. Another one's 450, and you don't want to say, well, sure, but you also don't want to say no.
Well, you
keep
can't.
talking until I get you right to the right number. You know.
What you can do is just say, because you never speak for your clients, and you know what's coming in the back of your head, right? All you can say is, I can ask my seller. And you ask your seller. When you come back and just say, you know, but at least you asked your seller, you know. So you're presenting the question and you're asking the seller, and then you're getting back. So that's how I get around it, or, you know, what I suggest. You just have to ask.
Okay, just ask, because the seller can say whatever they want.
Exactly. And you can just say, I presented it and the seller had said this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, good. All right.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any other questions before I have one?
I do. I have a concern about the as-is situation with we just closed a deal with, it was an as-is situation. When we went to do the walkthrough the day before, there was a lot of personal properties in the house. And I called the listing agent. I took pictures and videos, and I sent it to the listing agent. It was one of those agents, they're not that responsive. And, you know, I started arguing back and forth about the properties being sold as is and stuff like that. So I showed him, you know, I know some agents get upset when you kind of show him the contract. So I kind of highlight on the Mars contract, page 5, you know, what he said, broom clean and stuff like that. And then I presented the as-is addendum. Still, you know, they didn't agree. So, so I don't know what's anybody else experience with that as is and the content inside the house or personal properties.
But I'll tell you what we do here. I mean, of course, the agents that are on Zoom right now may have not experienced this like you did, Wilmer, but it happens all the time, every other day, okay? Because we have a lot of agents here, so I hear a lot of this. And you're right, Wilmer, you know, you bought a house as is, but unless you strike out that paragraph, like you had pointed out to the other agent, you know, broom swept and free of debris, it doesn't eliminate that. What I do is I reach out to the broker. Okay, and 9 times out of 10, it gets done. Whether the agent does it on the buyer or seller's behalf, or we get money for it or whatever. But they did not follow the contract. And I just nicely pointed out to the broker that they're in breach. We're not happy. If they don't have time to go and clean it up, then we want concessions.
Yeah.
You know, maybe your agent has to pay for it. You know, your agent didn't explain the contract maybe to the sellers. I don't know what the problem is, but it's not my buyer's problem.
Yeah,
I'm
good to
moving
know.
in with all this stuff. So don't stop, you know, because as a good broker, I know me, if this came and I had a complaint on one of my sellers, or and not so much the agent, because I have great agents, but that the seller's not doing what they're supposed to do, I'm going to reach out to my agent. And I said, okay, how are we going to do this? I mean, what are we going to do to make these people happy? Because this is not, this is stupid, you know, and we brainstorm, we figure it out. You know, you give a little, I give a little, you know, we'll figure it out. Because bottom line, you know, even though it's the seller's fault, it's the reputation of yourself, you know, and the company. And, you know, I know agents here that they go in there and they help their sellers move the day of settlement. You know, they're in there taking, you know, moving stuff, moving the loading trucks up and all this, just to make the contract stay and get the work done, you know. And no, who wants to move? But you do what you gotta do. I would want you to do that, Wilmer, but I would find a way to get the thing done.
Yeah. What I learned about this, Delia, is now when every time I'm gonna they're doing an as-is transaction, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add an addendum saying that except unless the sellers agree to leave the debris or personal properties in the property, we're okay with that. So just to add it, because in the contract said unless it's specified. So unless we do an addendum saying yes, it's as is, and the seller is not removing anything that is inside the house.
Okay, but when you say unless specified, where are you reading that verbiage? Where are you reading that on what form? The as is?
It kind of said in the as is addendum, yes.
Okay, but it doesn't trump the regular contract, which is to be broom swept.
The as is wouldn't, if you added that, you can't add that to the as is?
You can, but I'm just saying you don't have to, but to protect yourself, absolutely. I mean, I think Wilmer's right. He's not going to get burned again like this again, right? He's going to protect his people, you know. But what I'm saying is, you know, if you find it necessary, by all means, do it to protect your client. But it does cover that. Just because you have an as is, unless you cross that out, just like termite, you have an as is, but if that has termites, unless you cross that out, it doesn't trump the termite inspection. If it has termites. Same thing here.
What about the as is, where is language that the banks throw in? Can you do that? You know, you're buying the house. It's not just as is. You're buying the house as is, where is, and that seems to imply you're buying, you know, as it is and whatever it is, and that seems to
never
unhook
seen
you.
The where is part anywhere.
But you know, that's the problem. That's the problem. The as is, when we're doing a real estate transaction, we're talking about real estate, no personal property. That's what I was trying to tell the agent.
Exactly.
Hey, we're talking about the dwelling here, the structure, know what is inside, know the content, you know.
Well, it's just like I have, you know, they buy a house as is, and there's tenants in there. We said, well, the tenants were supposed to leave, but you bought to have a house as is. Yeah, I didn't buy people.
Right.
I didn't buy junk. I bought a house. So I get all kinds of stories, Wilmer. It's crazy out there. Crazy. You know, right. I said, what did you buy the people? I mean, it's really crazy. But anyway, I know. But if you feel that that's what you need to do to add it to the as is, absolutely. Anything
Okay.
to protect the client. It's not, I mean, it's not like you can't do it, you know?
Hmm.
So I have one last thing. You're showing a house and you do not have a buyer agency agreement. Who do you represent
The seller.
as a
Sub-agent.
sub-agent? Yep. Now, on the right, where you see compensation, and you have seller's agent and sub-agent, do you see compensation in the sub-agent section usually?
I do when I list, because I always put $1.
There you go. I was gonna yell at you. I said, you should have nothing in there, but I don't care about $1.
Yeah, well, somebody told me that it was it's better to have $1 in there because it's a specified amount. And if you put zero becomes this question like, what did you mean by zero?
Yeah, well,
Where is
0 is 0, but 1's fine. Yeah, and that way you just sold that house with no compensation.
Right.
So always have a buyer agency agreement, always. And I mean, you have to. And not only that, some agents don't like, or some buyers don't like to sign it. Well, just sign it for that just one property then. You know, if you have a hard time convincing a buyer to sign a buyer agency agreement, for lack of better terms, then you're not understanding how to sell it. But if you do sell it correctly and they still are not comfortable, then just do it for that particular property. That's it. Okay.
We have a question from Ann Dang. What can our broker do to stay competitive with other brokers? Sampson Properties, Redfin, and other brokers have been very aggressive recruiting realtors. Are we better than them?
You want me to answer that, Delia?
Yep, Gary or Cal, absolutely.
Go ahead, Kyle, you can take a stab at it.
Yeah, so I think our biggest, I'll start with the other brokers. So obviously the percentage brokerage, what I call them, the Long & Fosters, Remaxes, Coldwell Bankers, Century 21s. Our biggest competitor there obviously is 100% commission. Now, when it comes to Redfin is more, that's its own like breed. So it's more of like an employee basis. You clock in, clock out. It's not so much commission based. It's more base salary base. And you just want to be a listing. If you just want to show homes or do open houses, you get paid for that. Now with Sampson Properties, I would say we're pretty identical, but the biggest thing that's different, because we recruit Sampson Properties agents and I hear different stories from them, but they have quotas. So if you don't hit their quotas, I believe it's 9 transactions a year, you're paying E&O a transaction fee that you pay out of your commission, and then your client pays an admin. And what they don't market and what they don't say is that resets each year, or for what I've heard of the agents that have come over to us. I think that's the biggest thing is the transaction fee. And they're more of an EXP where there's a lot of training. And from what I've heard, it's required training. But that's our biggest difference. I mean, we are still the lowest fees when it comes to 100% brokerages on the East Coast. And I don't really see another brokerage like us with our fees plus that lets you do pretty much your own thing. We're as involved as you want us to be. We're a phone call away, or if you're the type of agent that wants to work out of your home and just not be bothered, we can do that too. We custom all different types of agents. But just again, the biggest thing with us and Sampson has a transaction fee. They have quotas and required trainings. And of course, with Redfin, it's more of a salary based, or it's more of an employee relationship. And then, of course, with the other brokerages, they take commission splits.
Yeah, I want to add, like in terms of technology, I know for a fact now that we have our new platform, we are on par, if not better, with all the other 100% brokerages. Financially, we definitely are the lowest fees when you dig down deep into transaction fees and agent fees. I'd say the biggest differentiator between us and other 100% brokerages are culture. Like Kyle said, these other brokerages, they want their agents to be very involved and do mandatory trainings and come to the office every so often, versus us, we're a little bit more flexible. As Kyle said, we are involved as you want us to be. There's a lot of agents out there just that don't want to be bothered, just want to do their real estate business and don't want to talk to anyone. That's perfectly fine. You can go ahead and do that here. You might not be able to do that at a Sampson or a Douglas, because they'll be constantly hounding you to come in the office and meet the broker and all that stuff. But
I want to mention one more thing that's really big with Sampson, and I've heard a lot of this with Sampson agents that's transferred over is if you don't use their cardinal title, you're the lowest man on the totem pole. I would say with us, and I think Delia can agree, when we first started with Taylor and Heritage Title, of course, we forced Taylor agents to use Heritage Title. I think at this point now, we have so much outside business coming in, we don't really have to shove it down your guys' throats anymore. It's more here as an option to have your transaction underneath all the same umbrella. If you want to use Heritage Title, Heritage Financial, it's an option. Of course, we have special rates for Taylor agents that use Heritage Title. But
and they
it's
get
more
paid at the table.
But it's for their buyers too. It's just
and so with us, we don't really. It's not like, hey, use Heritage Title or else. If you use them, that's great. You get some great benefits with it. Like Kristin said, you could pay it at the table. The fee for your client is $200 off, and there's good incentives, but we don't really shove it down your throat and treat you any differently, as I've heard Sampson does with Cardinal Title.
Elaine Hunold has an interesting comment here. I was with Sampson for a while. They require new agents to work under a supervising broker, which is designed for new high school graduates, no matter the experience. They took most of my commissions for the first 3 transactions, totally unnecessary. I like being treated as an experienced agent at Taylor, just the right amount of support. So pretty much.
I've heard that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine, for that good comment.
I've heard that with Sampson as well. If you've been out of the business for 3 years, there's a year, certain amount of years. I think it's 3 years, you're required to go through their mentoring program for your first 3 transactions. And I don't know if it's 3 years, 4 years, but I know if you're out of the business for a little bit, they require a mentoring program.
But if at any time anyone here is concerned with our service offerings or feel that we should be doing better in some aspect of our business and service offerings to you, please let us know. We can only address what we know. So just be open with us and let us know these things in advance. So that way we can try to address your issues before they blow up.
And we can only improve with your feedback, honestly. And that's what we're looking to do. I mean, we got back at you, and one of the main reasons we got it is because of our agents. What they wanted was a CRM. What they wanted is a things that can generate leads for them, as far as Facebook and Instagram and everything that it does. And if you guys have not been on back at you really need to go on that. Matter of fact, the next meeting that we're having next month, we're going to have an agent of ours, Pat, is going to be on it, and he is using the new software, and he's from Keller Williams, and he said he's with Keller Williams how long, Gary? 10 years?
Yeah, it was
like that. And they've been trying to do this same software that they're still working on for 10 years. He goes, and why are they doing that? I mean, he has doubled his business just in a couple months?
It's been with us for like 3 or 4 months.
And so with that being said, I mean, you have to use the tools. Well, you should be using the tools that we're providing, because we listened to our agents and want help to how they grow their business.
And Pat also, I mean, he uses transaction listing coordinating service that we offered, that we launched last year, Zocum, EMD direct deposits.
I mean, we have a lot of stuff out there, and if you don't know what we have, call me. Don't ever feel that you can't call me evenings and weekends. I think everybody out there should have they should have my cell. If not, it's up on the website. So, I mean, you need to call and see if for some reason you don't think that you're doing something right, call me. Because I'm telling you, in this market, it's a hard market to sell in, but I have people that hadn't done business in years and years and years, the people that's been with me 15 years, and they've done already like 5 or 6 this year. It's just, it's out there. And use the tools that we have and we provided, that's what you guys wanted, to grow your business and to brand yourself. That's what we're about.
So Delia, as myself, I start my project in the beginning of the year with my YouTube channel and start getting engaged into social media a little bit more. And you guys have seen the different, how my business has skyrocketed this year compared to last year. And what I love the most is with the back of you, he's doing all the work that I was doing in social media myself. That, I mean,
Does it for you?
It's unbelievable. I have presence in Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and you guys, the back of you, it throw 3 or 4 posts every week for myself. So my presence is still out there, and my business is crazy, and it's all referral. Besides the social media that you guys are helping me, and what a little bit of what I'm doing myself, it's been amazing.
So we listen, we do, it's back, Gary, it says what, it's back to you.
Yes, back to you. It's called Back at You. We also call it Agent Portal. It is free. I'm going to email you after this meeting. I'm just gonna look at your profile, see if you've logged in or anything like that. I'm gonna guess you haven't. But I'll send you some links after this meeting, just to get you logged in. And we also have a cheat sheet and some tutorials that we've put together for you, so you can kind of learn the platform as needed.
And
Bob has a question. Sorry.
I'd like to get an email with that too. I know nothing. I'm technical.
Okay.
Betty Rubble.
Yeah. Just to mention, Back at You is replacing our old dashboard that we had. So Back at You is going to be the new hub. We're going to be fully transferred over to that one. We partially are now for the social end of things, but we're eventually going to phase out SkySlope, and everything, document managing, the forms, fillable, e-signature will all be in Back at You. Sometime we're hoping first quarter of next year.
Maybe second.
Okay.
First,
Great.
second, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Bob has a
also
question.
Go ahead. I just wanted to say I use Heritage exclusively, and I am so happy with them. They are awesome.
We love you, Brenda.
Oh yeah, I love you too. You're awesome. Thank you.
It makes me feel good. Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of title, Bob had a question. Are we looking at paying at the table when heritage is not used for settlement? I don't know the legality of that, Delia or
Yeah,
Kristin.
the only reason we pay, and it's because it's my incumbent, we own all 3 companies, right? So I know the money's there, right? So what happens is I know when I give Kristin a check for your commission and she gives me a check the next day, it's kind of clear, right? And that's the only reason I can do it. Because believe it or not, guys, I've had title company checks bounce on me. Not ever supposed to happen, but it just happened like 2 weeks ago. When I'm floating all that money and you guys already, that's why, really holding your commission for 4 days is nothing, because I don't usually know until, if I'm lucky, 4 days, and that's the only reason why, to be honest with you, because I've had, them bounce on me and I can't afford, I can't have that, So knowing that I know what's in my account, I know that's not going to bounce when it comes from Heritage Title, so that's why I can do it. Somebody asked what platforms Back at You hits. I don't know who asked that. I saw that come through.
Well, it just asks like who sees Back at You. It's a private portal for agents. Heather Logan is doing a great job, by the way. Thank you, Wilmer.
Thank you, Wilmer.
And Seb, I see your note. I will send you the information for Back at You as well after this meeting.
Okay, we'll run a little bit over, but I do want to leave with one note. Well, first off, does anybody else have anything?
Only thing I want to add is I think this whole Zoom meeting thing is awesome, because I have been always surprised at how connected I have felt to everybody at Taylor Properties, mainly because whenever I call, somebody picks up the phone everybody's gets back to me. You know, you guys have been unbelievably supportive, in my opinion. And now this adds to it tremendously. I just feel a lot more bonded to everybody that we get to do this.
That is
every
so
month.
great. And just on that note, I wanted to let you know, I think maybe the beginning of January, correct me here if I'm wrong, I'm going to be going to different offices, the Bethesda office. I'll be at Bethesda, Bowie, Columbia, Towson, and Waldorf, kind of like traveling and doing these Zoom calls. I think we're going to push them off to maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, Gary, while I'm at those locations, and then have like a happy hour afterwards for you guys to come in and visit me. You know, we're going to see how that goes, because I'd love to meet you. I mean, I know Michael, I hear from him like every other day. It's great. Now I know what he looks like, and all these other people all blacked out. I don't like that. I want to see names. But, you know, I'd love to. And even if you can't make the Zoom call, come, you know, to the happy hour afterwards, you know, just a meet and greet and things. And I do want to leave.
One last question. I'm sorry. Do you have any plan in the future to have an office like the Columbia office, or and somewhere here in Montgomery County or in this side of the town?
I'm waiting for you. Told you. Yeah, waiting for you. Everybody needs that, Wilmer.
Yeah, that's the 2022 project. Yes,
Now,
the
you-
2022 project.
Okay, that's coming up soon. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I told you we can work on that with you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so I mean, I'm open to any ideas, you know, and that brings me to my closing statement is you guys are your own, you know, you work with Taylor Properties. No, we're not a co-op bank or a Long and Foster, and you guys run your own little business. And it's you who represents yourself and who gets the business. It's not who you're with. You wouldn't be here making 100% in commission unless you knew that. And we're here to make sure that you succeed. So if you need help, anything, questions, anything you need support, you need a motivational speaker to come in my office and talk to me for an hour, I'm here for that. Okay? Just remember that. I get people that come in, say, okay, I need motivation. So they sit in my office for 30 minutes and I just pump them up because they're all that and then some. And they feel it's good and they come in with a contract. It works because you guys are in, you know, you're in your home doing your thing and knowing that, you know, I'm here, you can come in the office, have lunch, do whatever. We don't have closed doors. Okay. So saying that, I think that's the way. Any other questions? We're good, Gary?
Yeah, I think we're up against time, so we'll let everyone go. Thank you everyone for joining us again. We will do this again next month.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Great.
guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.